Hi guys, today I'm going to do a drive-in chat, and if that sounds familiar, it's probably because you watch Uncle Steve's videos, and if you don't know who Uncle Steve is, then you need to check out my feature channel list on my homepage here on YouTube. My feature channel shows all the people that I watch when I'm not making YouTube videos, because I don't own a TV, and if I want any entertainment without having to make it myself, then I go to my subscription list, the best of which I feature on my homepage. But today I wanted to just talk a little bit about honest mechanics, because I recently found one, and it's always a nice thing when you find somebody who's not going to rip you off. And just wanted to tell you guys a quick story about how I came about finding them. And what happened was, the starter on my boat, which I had taken off, painted and reinstalled, and I thought all was well. I went to bump the motors a couple times to see if they would start to turn, and I noticed it wasn't clanging as hard as it had. And then after a couple of turns, it wasn't making any noise at all. And the buddy that I was with at the time said, "Oh man, your starter's no good." And I'm like, "No, I just checked it. It's got to be good." And so we took it off again and hooked it up to a battery, and nothing. It wouldn't turn at all. And I was like, "All right, man, what the heck, you know?" So I was a little upset at the fact that the starter was acting like it was no good, but at the same time, I thought, maybe that's the reason it can't turn the motors. Maybe because the starter's no good. So he says, well, I just bought a brand new motor. He's got 350s just like me, and I helped him take the motor out of his boat. Like the day before, he decided to help me with the starter. And he says, why don't we take the starter to the guy that sold me the motors, because he's a really nice dude and he's good to know, and if you have a boat you need a mechanic once in a while, and he's a great guy to know. So I'm like, all right, that's a good idea. So we go to this mechanic, and he's a one-armed guy, but I would never call him disabled. I mean, this dude is motivated and he's talented. He really knows what he's doing. Very knowledgeable guy. And he's like, "Come on, let's take it out back and take a look at it." So he throws it on a vise and takes the thing apart, lickety split, right in front of me. And he's like, "Well, there's your problem right there. There's a bolt that comes out of the starter that the positive lead of the solenoid goes to." And he says, what happens with these older starters is if you tighten the bolt too much, the stud will turn and break the connection on the inside of the starter. And that's why when you hook it up, it doesn't work. He says, I don't have a new bolt like that, but you can take it down to the specialty place right up the street. All they do is starters and alternators. And I'm like, all right. And he didn't charge me anything for looking at it, for taking it apart. And we sat and we talked for a while, and I described what I was doing about maybe living on a boat. And, you know, he's a fisherman himself, which is one reason why I liked him. But he also, he envied my position in life and how I could just take off someday. And again, really nice guy. Didn't charge me a dime. So I go down the street to the place he recommended. I show him the starter, which had been taken apart and it was now in a cardboard box. And they kind of looked down their nose at me and they were like, yeah, we can fix it, but you got to give us at least an hour. And we're like, all right, no big deal. So my buddy and I went down to Channelside in Tampa and had a nice lunch. Come back almost 2 hours later, and the guy says, yeah, I put a new bolt on there and a new connector on the inside. Who's paying for it? You know, I'm like, yeah, me, I guess. Takes my card and then brings back this big paper And you can see that it's got a big empty spot for all the service it could be doing, but there was only one line, and it said replaced bolt, starter bolt, or whatever they called it. And the price was $64. And literally, it looked like a stainless steel threaded bolt with 2 nuts on the outside, 1 on the inside, and they replaced a little crimp-on connector to the wire inside the starter. Couldn't have taken them more than 10 minutes. Whatever, $64. I mean, I was a little pissed about it. I was surprised they didn't tell me what the price was going to be beforehand, you know. They said, yeah, we'll take a look at it, see if we can fix it for you. And then when they get back, they're like, oh yeah, we fixed it. And by the way, it's $64. Oh man, so, but whatever. I thought, if I put the starter back in and all of a sudden it works really good and it's able to turn those motors, it'll be worth $64. I had been thinking that I would have to get it rebuilt, which would cost $180. And if I had to buy a new one, it would have been $280. So I was trying to justify the $64. I was like, all right, whatever. Now these specialty guys didn't even bother putting it back together. They gave it back to me in a box 2 hours after I gave it to them. And they charged me $64 to replace a bolt on it. Whenever I sucked it up, I went back to the boat. I said to my buddy, I says, you know, before we hook it up, let's just see if it works. So we hook it up to his battery again, and we get nothing. Nothing. We're getting spark, but that's it. The Bendix wasn't jumping out and turning. I'm like, what the hell? So we took it apart. Now, mind you, it took my friend and I, who are not specialty guys at alternators or starters or anything, it took us 2 minutes to put the thing together. And I was a little pissed off. I was like, you know, if these specialty guys do this for a living, you'd think they could put it together in, you know, no time flat. You think they might have said, you were charging this guy $64 for just a little bolt. Let's do him a favor, put it back together, and bench test it and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then we can charge him for something else, you know, and I would understand that. But they didn't even take the time to put it together. It took my friend and I 2 minutes to put it together. And it didn't work. So we took it apart, we put it back together. We couldn't find it. And I told my buddy, I'm like, you know what, I'm done. We've been at this all day now, between lunch and driving there and dropping it off and seeing the mechanic first and then the specialty guys, and I paid $64 and now my starter doesn't work and it's getting late and cold and I'm done. I'm done. Put the stupid starter away, who cares? I wasn't happy at all. I went back home to my house, didn't stay on the boat, and the following day I had planned on going back to these people who put the bolt on, the $64 bolt, and be like, hey, unless I'm missing something, you guys did not fix this thing. All you did was charge me $64 for a bolt. And the more, you know, I was rehearsing what I was going to say to these people when I saw them. And every single time it was coming out very angry. I mean, I was pissed. And I thought, well, I don't want to go in there and rant and rave if something indeed happened because of me and not them, because then I look like the schmuck. So instead I went to Mark, the mechanic, the honest guy, who took it apart and looked at it and diagnosed it for free initially. So I went back to him and I said, sorry about touching the microphone there. So I went back to him and I said, so buddy, maybe you can tell me what's wrong. Do you think it's something that I did? Do you think perhaps it's something they did? I'm so mad right now. I don't want to go back over there and see them. So I thought I'd come to you. You know, I'm not asking for a freebie. I mean, if you can help me fix this thing, then I'll pay you. I appreciated how honest you were with me last time, and So he says, yeah, all right, let's take it out back. So again, he takes it apart, and he sees the little bolt that they put on there and the wire connector, and he says, well, the wire connector is touching the outer housing of the starter, which is grounding it out, and that's why it's not starting. I said, so that was their fault. They didn't install it correctly. He says, yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm surprised. They're usually pretty good. So I'm like, so I guess I ought to bring it back to them and bitch and moan. And he says, well, look at the Bendix here is stuck in the out position, and that's not because of this. So they could fix that and it still might not work. He says, I'm surprised they didn't see that either. He says, I'll tell you what, let's take it apart. So at this point, his mechanic walks over and starts helping us, me and the mechanic, Mark, his name is, to disassemble this thing and try to diagnose it. And they took the Bendix completely apart, which I'm impressed. I mean, there was a couple little tiny pieces with springs, and I remember telling his mechanic, his helper there, I was like, there's no way, that's the point where I would have just given up, because there's too many little small parts. And he was like, no, that's what makes it fun. I'm like, no, that's what makes you good. And it's the truth. They took apart the Bendix, they cleaned it, they greased it, they put it back together, they fixed the electrical connection, and then they put it back together, go figure, and bench tested it with a battery, and it started, the Bendix jumped out and span and did everything it was supposed to do. And they were like, there you go. This guy, he's not a specialty guy at starters, but he fixed it. And he was just a pleasant guy, and he did it while I was there. Didn't tell me, yeah, I'll come back in an hour, maybe I'll fix it. And then charge me a lot of money for nothing. That doesn't work. And I went around to the front, and he told me, he's like, you know what, just give me $20 for the guy back there and call it even. And because I guess he felt bad about recommending somebody that screwed me over. And I said, no, dude, how about this? How about I give you both $20, because I can't tell you how pleased I am to actually find somebody who's going to treat me right. That means a lot to me. I said, as a matter of fact, I'm going to come back with my camera and I'm going to film your shop and you and tell the people about it, and maybe you can get some business, because I was so happy, you know, like it went from a really low point to a really high point. At first I felt like I was getting ripped off, and then from there I felt like I had met my salvation, you know. And the more I speak to the guy, the more I realize that that's the kind of guy he is. He won't lie to you. He'll tell you exactly what the problem is. If he doesn't know, he'll say he doesn't know. And I get the impression that it isn't very often that he doesn't know, or he won't just dive in and figure it out himself. He's an excellent guy. If he had a YouTube channel, he'd be giant. He's such a personality, and he's such a go-getter. Doesn't let having one arm get in his way at all. He's very inspirational. His name is Mark, and his business is called BULLFROGCREEKMARINE. Any local people out here in Tampa that, you know, if you have a boat, whether it's an outboard or if it's an inboard and you can get it to him, I highly suggest going there. And he sells all kinds of stuff in the front office. If you need parts, he'll look it up for you and find out what you need and sell you the right stuff. And I'm doing this for him. I mean, he's not paying me, but I'm doing this for him because it really means a lot to me to find somebody who's really honest and is not going to jerk you around or anything. I don't know. It's hard to express how grateful I am to meet people like that nowadays. So, I don't know. I just thought I'd share that story with you. Now, as far as the motors are concerned and this and that, I took the starter, which now worked properly, back to my boat, hooked it up, turned the key, and it went clank. So the starter works, which is awesome. But the motors, yeah. we'll work on that another day. But who knows? Now that I know a good mechanic, and again, he put a motor together for my friend at the marina who's changing his motors. My friend who wants him and me and another boat or a third boat to go down to the Keys in the springtime. That would be a fun trip. He tells me, it was like, it'll take about 3 hours to get, no, I mean, they said about 3 days they would take to get down there, nice and slow, pick up a mooring ball, stay for about a month. Yeah, it'd be nice. So who knows, maybe one of these days I'll get Mark to help put a couple motors together for me. I don't know. Maybe I'll never do business with him again. I don't know, although I doubt it. Because again, it's nice to find an honest guy. Anyways, that's it. I wanted to share that story with you, and for everybody local, I'm going to leave his information in the description box below. Bullfrog Creek Marine. If you need help, give him a call and support some local small business owners. Tell him Marty sent you. So for this driving chat, this is Marty saying adios. And go check out Uncle Steve and all my other featured channels. Talk to you later.